like to try and do really is ask you those to sort of think, start to put yourself in the head of people sitting in the room. Because how many of them are in Lancashire? Exactly. You see,
it's me.
Donna's in. Yeah, I'm more thinking of the people who would be accessing support like this, and I think there are other organisations that do exactly the same thing. But in terms of, you were completely honest with us, and you sort of said, we've captured all this data, we've got these projects running, we're doing really well, we're celebrating, we're capturing stories, and things like that. But then you sort of said, well, and now we need to demonstrate the impact. So what do you think maybe some of the barriers might be, some of for measuring and counting the social impact? And I don't just mean putting a financial figure on it. I just mean being able to tell that story in the way that some of your funders or commissioners or other people might be looking for.
One of the biggest barriers is capacity to do it. Because it's huge in terms of the impacts that we're having. It's massive. I said, we're saving lives. How do you measure that? How do you measure saving a life? How do we... we're quietly confident that all the data is there, that as we've gone along, we have STAR method of measuring at the beginning, mid-term and at the end of their journey with us. Knowledge and understanding. I've come here today as much as I was happy to talk to you and share my journey, and 30 years have been phenomenal, best 30 years of my life if I tell you the truth. But how do you bottle it? How do you bottle it? And what I want to do more than anything is learn from you. I don't think I've got anything that I can share that a lot of you don't know already. The barriers, particularly in terms of social value, is when we get to start and put a monetary value to the work that we do, we may use quite a crude measure, realistic albeit, and then the value starts to really grow, and then in some cases it becomes a little bit unbelievable, and then you're chasing your tail then, trying to reassure yourselves and whoever's reading this that figure really is right. Having the capacity to do this is a big thing. But another big barrier is that our commissioners are in a similar situation, particularly in Lancashire. Lancashire County Council is a struggling council. And so they are downsizing and outsourcing and shrinking. And so they're making redundancies, and then you find that the people in the procurement teams or in the services that they do need to outsource just haven't got the time to worry about whether or not they're capturing that social value. One of the best things that I learned was we can't go to these the commissioners and sell our story. What we have to go with is a solution to their problem. We've got to turn that on their head and make them understand that we can solve their problems, because we have to remember that their capacity is just as weak as ours is.
So in terms of the people in this room, and I know some work for social enterprises or community voluntary organisations, some work for support umbrella organisations, consultants, things like that. But actually, in terms of the ones like your Building Better Opportunities projects, like the people who are working out there, what do you say to them? What are the tips about collecting this data and impact and things like that? What do you share with them?
Well, the thing for Selna is, actually something that I did forget to mention, for Selna it has been, because we're like an upper tier, we're a step removed from that social impact, aren't we? Because we do no direct delivery at all. The people that are really having the social impact in our programmes are the people on the ground, the key workers that are going and knocking on the doors and getting Johnny out of bed in the morning because he's got an interview at midday, and the people that are hand-holding them to get them to the doctors, to get them to the dentist, to do all of those key things. That's where the real social impact is happening. Now, we're second removed from that, and I've gone off at a bit of a tangent to do know that, but I think it's sort of important to understand that for Selna, social impact, it's always been a struggle being that tier above. What the tips that I give to our members is be clear about your mission and be clear about how you report on your activity. Monitor, review, evaluate every single thing that you do. And sometimes that is just a quick exercise. First thing we did when we came in today, first thing that Sana asked us to do was put our names on those evaluation things. Do you do that in your everyday job? Do you do that when you're delivering? Do you do that with your families, that you go out, I can't remember your name now, but Kerry, that's it. Do you do that? No? Okay. Help me. Who does? Who doesn't? How do you make it easier for yourselves?
I'm going to speak because I know, because I used to work with Hannah and so on.
Yeah, I deliberately didn't pick on her there.
No, I don't pick on her because I know what they do, their evaluation forms and things like that is, they have it in two parts. So it's almost like they encourage you to fill the first bit in about what you feel when you come to something, so that you can fill the rest of it in at the end, because then you're capturing the change through a course, an event, a day or something like that, or an intervention, or anything that involves the project. But they're actually capturing change. And that, it's like you said, I think you're completely right. It's that, keep track of everything that you do and the difference that it's making to people.
And then you can go back and apply measures to it.
Yeah.
We have a huge amount of anecdotal evidence of what our projects are doing. We're now ready to start and put a real value in that.
Can I ask you a question then? Do you think how accurate do you think putting a real value would be on it? How much is that determined by the data that's collected? How accurate and robust?
I don't know. I can't honestly answer that. The data is accurate. The data is there. It's robust. And we will continue to feed more data into it. I think it's down to the experts. I'm going to have a chat with Lisa shortly about the way that we put a value to it. And the thing is that when I was at Bolton Council, and I was in the economic region, I was in the economic development division, and another division of the council were all the business advisors, and they poo-pooed social enterprise, something wrong. Business is business. All the years that I have come through in being a social enterprise specialist, business advisor, qualified up to my eyeballs in terms of CMI and all of this. The challenge is always getting the people to understand the difference, why we're different.
So that's what I was going to ask you actually. Do you think they're measuring the wrong things?
Maybe. maybe.
Because they're trying to put social
But
enterprises in
it's
the same box.
square peg, round hole,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So how can we prove the difference?
If I had that answer, I'd be very rich.
You're very influential.
Am I? How do we prove that we're different? How do we prove that we're different? Help me to prove.
Help me to please. I've got some ideas from the room.
I think we've just come off a year of pretty like purist thinking of how to measure something, and if I'm honest, like I'm on a massive steep learning curve with it, and some of it I love and some of it I see is really, really beneficial, and some of it I feel actually is like tricked a step along the way. And very much today, like my head is wanting to come in and be really open-handed to like and honest about our experience. And I think there's something which you're kind of like talking around, which is really, really like at the heart of where my thinking is right now. And I guess like that question about how do we measure the difference, and the delicate nature of when you get to the point where, like in the conversation we had about like whether tail is wagging the dog, and we, you know, at the beginning of the year we might think that we wanted to measure somebody's confidence in getting into employment or getting actually the data for that outcome, that we've completely missed all the amazing rich story of the real difference that we made, not me, those groups. And I think that it's such the thing for me that I feel that I'm at the moment, and I hope that I'll explore today, is that in that process, how do you allow a certain level of flexibility to adjust, but still to be like robust in your data collection? Because I think that because people and daily life is so changeable, you can't preset it in a really linear way, but you have to have enough robustness about it so that when you go and see your commissioners, you can say, well, this is our data set, this is what we can prove. And then I think the thing that I've just been exploring at the moment is around, instead of starting with your outcome, like, is it possible to have loads of conversations and look at what are the common themes or the critical success factors and work your way back in?
Yeah.
And that's where my head is at the moment, and I might get to the end of that and think, oh no, that doesn't work, I need something else. But there's just something in that conversation. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that it's there, and I know the work that we're all doing and involved in is amazing, and I'm passionate about wanting to tell that story, and to tell it in a way that makes sense to a commissioner, to tell it in a way that makes sense to a funder, a stakeholder, all those different things. But I think that there is no answer.
I think you've given lots of answers though. So, you know, there's something, I'm trying to unpick it here, but there's something in it about, you know, doing what you're doing about measurement and doing it well enough and being confident about it to be able to pick up the other stuff, and then being able to challenge maybe. So you've got sort of, I'm going to use those horrible words, taking control, but you're determining it. You know, you're not, I mean, who here has multiple funders and is constantly collecting information from multiple funders? There's something here about thinking, well, what is it that we do, and listening to, you know, your service users and your other stakeholders, listening to your staff, listening to your members, listening to people at events like this and learning from it and using that as part of what you do. But it's down to exactly what you said at the beginning about, you know, keeping the records as you go along and being quite fussy about that. You know, you can't start to move off the script unless you're confident about the script, you know.
When I talked, when we started this sort of thought process, I talked about the guys that did the mainstream business support, let me use that expression, and I was over in I was over the other side in the poor relation, if you like, and that has always niddled me. It really aggravated me at the time that we were considered the poor relation. I'm not now. I am nobody's poor relation, and this sector doesn't stand third to anybody. This sector is just an integral part of society that it cannot be ignored. The movement, the social enterprise movement is massive and making changes. The challenge is making people realise just how much the change is. I remember somebody describing my work as, oh, you're just the fluffy stuff in business. I'd love to see him again today because that fluffy stuff is zero. We are not the fluffy stuff in business. We are the wind under their wings, doing all the work.
So have we got any questions? Anybody wants to ask Liz?
Thoughts on cashing things up? My own philosophy in terms of using cash to be the ultimate measure of impact is maybe...
Well, it does. I'm sorry, but it does.
I'm naive.
I'm not quite sure yet.
I don't know what
Matthew.
you call me. I just think sometimes it cheapens. If you're talking about something like social cohesion or somebody's self-confidence or self-esteem, isn't that way more important than cash? I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'm just challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Liz, take that on.
She's heard me spout on this before.
You've got to talk to the decision makers. You've got to.
You've got to talk to them, yeah, but we were talking about this earlier as well. I also think we all have to have the confidence to challenge them and really go right back and think, what is, we're gathering this information to demonstrate change to what end? And it's not simply to demonstrate that investment has, tick the box, you've done it, you've achieved it. It's about making sure that what we provide and continue to provide is actually meeting the needs of the people that we work with and the communities that we're working within. And so I think we have to be realistic because we need the resources to be able to do that. And in order to do that, yes, we do need to be careful and clever and smart and professional in how we present that information. But I think we can do it, but it's part of our vocabulary, but it's not our driver. So, I suppose it comes back to saying that there isn't a simple answer or response, and I think that is also something that we recognise, that we actually work in a very complex environment. And I really loved your expression there about, as the social enterprise being the wind and the wings of businesses. Actually, we are the ones working in this sector that have to deal with multiple and different challenges, so we have to be more innovative, more practiced. We have to strive to do better and be more creative in the way that we work.
In Lancashire, it's part of the current ESIF strategy. They see the ESF programmes in Lancashire as being on an escalator. Again, a little bit crude, but building better opportunities being the bottom rung of this wonderful Lancashire. Lancashire escalator going up, and what I feel quite strongly is that if we don't plant these little seeds, if we don't do that building better opportunities work, what I always used to say before I came to the women's, I was at Manchester Enterprises, when they were talking big numbers and big things, you do not get them big things without focusing on those little acorns. You don't plant an acorn, you don't get an oak tree. You know, you don't help those people that are just checked out for whatever reason. I did it. I checked out in 1989. I ran away. I took my kids and did what we did. And I checked out for about 3 years through no fault of my own. But by God, I had some skills. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to manage my mental health and get back on that rung. And I'm here now talking to you. If we don't enable those people to do that, you're not going to get up there. You're just not going to achieve it, are you?
So can I ask Adrian as
Question, Liz. How important do you think it is in your busy life and in our busy lives to take time out to kind of partner, to have those conversations with other partners, to steer the conversation, to influence opinions? So I'm aware that we kind of struggle at one level with how do we measure, but actually we've got maybe an opportunity to shape what people value, so that when we say this is what we've measured, it kind of makes a connection.
It's just so key. It's part and parcel of your daily routine. It has to be. You have to nurture your friends, nurture your relationships, nurture your partners. Look after them, be kind to them, support them in every way you can. Now, fitting that into a busy, I mean, I'm not going into work-life balance. I'm just not going there, because I think that I'm far enough now, I'm big enough and old enough now to have made a decision about what I want. Those 3 kids that were evicted with me have got their own lives now. I have a new husband who loves me and looks after me, and I actually can make a choice about what I want to do. So the hours I work are my own, they're my hours. And what I do know is the less that I network, the less I talk to my partners and members, I miss so much, and the less my business drops. I talked about us having 100 members in Lancashire. There are 2,500 social enterprises that we know of in Lancashire. And we only charge 40 quid for membership. That's not that much. And just imagine the income that I'd have if I could get round those 2,500 and what a different impact it would make on our business. You have to have resources, you have to have capacity. And they are so important. You've just got to balance it. And you've got to know that when you've got another priority, as we had last week, one of our big BBO partners went into administration last week, and Donna and I worked 24/7 to stabilise that project, mainly for the 200 participants.